was your weekend?
It's been good. Still in lockdown, still just hanging out.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Same here.
Strange Easter, just kind of chilling.
Yeah. We spent the entire day on Zoom and FaceTime with people. We had officially 4 different online conferences that day.
Oh, wow.
We had my parents and my brothers on one, like, first thing, and then Tara called her family, her parents, for a while, and then that turned into, after dinner, of her like extended family doing a gigantic, like, I think it was almost 2 hours of FaceTime.
Wow.
And then we were going to stop, but then my family had this Zoom scheduled for that evening, and then we ended up hopping on that for like an hour, and then went to bed.
It's a weird way of living, man, but you know what? It's better than nothing. I'm glad this is happening now and not 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's what I keep sort of reminding myself and reminding other people of. Like, it's not the worst time in history to be reduced to teleconferencing people. At least we have video chat.
And another thing, I was thinking about this. So, like, my grandparents, they still, like, they don't have the internet at their house. Like, they're completely, they just do not do that. They don't have a computer, nothing. Right. And I'm just like, can you imagine, like, it's so hard to fathom for me, but like, we're so accustomed to having new daily content coming to us, like, not just daily, but like minute by minute. And they're just stuck on whatever's on television, whatever happens to be on the few channels that they get.
Yeah.
That's what they have. And so how rough it must be to, like, I don't even know what you do. Just read books, I guess. And like, I've already read this, but I'm going to read it again. And like that's all you can do. You don't have new stuff coming at you 24/7.
Yeah, it's rough. And I think that the what is this? I lost my train of thought. I think that, like, every article that's about, like, the theaters bouncing back or whatever is completely dependent on people being bored of what's on streaming by the time this is all over. And it's so weird to think of, like, bored. Like, there's so much on there, but
right. Well, but it is true. Like, it's so weird. I read something at one point that was like, the average, I can't remember what it is, but it was like the average person, when presented with more than X amount of options, becomes so overwhelmed they can't decide.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard that in reference to like Netflix, right, where you've got so many options and you have so much time, you end up not doing it. And I'm guilty of that. Like, I'll sit down sometimes and be like, ooh, I have all this time, I'm going to watch a movie or whatever. And then, like, time just gets away and I just haven't picked one. And it's just one of those things where you just like the endless scroll on Netflix of just, I don't know what I want. Do I want action adventure? Do I want comedy? And then you just scroll through every option and then you're like, let me go see what's on Hulu. And you flip over to Hulu and you do the same thing over there. And then you go to Disney Plus and you do the same thing over there. And then, 30 minutes have gone by and you haven't done anything.
Yeah. I've came across something interesting on Reddit, by the way. I wanted to share this with you.
Okay.
This is where I sort of poke around. If you need prodding to think about movies, someone pulled up the discussion was movie trends post coronavirus. And it was essentially, what do we expect movies to be about, or new movies to be written about? Because you're gonna see an influx of things, maybe not referencing COVID-19, but or even pandemic. Yeah, it could be an outbreak, or it could be just people needing to be out of work and shut down for a while. But it's going to essentially be about So here's a few premises I thought, and I read this and I thought this was a fun list. All right, so we've got raunchy teen comedies about a group of friends trying to defy the lockdown by going out to party on beaches and rooftops irresponsibly. We have emotionally taut drama about an abuse victim having to live with their abuser during the lockdown. I think that's definitely going to be one.
Yep.
We have crime heist about a gang planning to rob somewhere during the lockdown, evading authorities and the virus.
Okay.
We have purge-type thriller about a dystopian country like North Korea deciding to redirect the public's anger about the government's handling of the virus. That's pretty interesting. It's some layers.
Yep.
That's probably going to be a series of books. A lot of these super dense. Horror movie about someone being chased during deserted streets by a maniac, but nobody will help her because she's not wearing a mask. Okay, that's kind of...
Okay, it's a stretch.
Yeah. Indie comedy drama about an estranged couple who, while meeting to discuss their divorce, are forced into isolation together during the lockdown. I thought about that one, actually.
Yep.
Chinese government-funded movie about the heroic efforts of wet market chefs trying to stop an American biotech company from unleashing the virus upon the world.
Okay.
American government-funded movie about the heroic efforts of a U.S. Marine trying to stop a Chinese biotech company from unleashing the virus upon the world.
Yeah, that'll happen.
And
starring Aaron Johnson.
The last one is a Reddit-funded movie about the heroic efforts of a subreddit trying to crowdfund a vaccine for the virus, but accidentally creating a witch hunt by accusing several innocent people of being patient zero.
Yep, there you go.
So it's weird because it's a fun little list to think about, but there's going to be an influx. It's so weird because right now, you've got market research and executives and whatever, all, who generally jockey for this, here's what we are interested in seeing right now type of thing. And there's things that are in, there's things that are out. And I think it's going to be a quick spike in, we want to see pandemic movies, and it's going to be like, the opening, like the first day of selling tickets for who's big right now? It's Sia. I don't know. It's a big Billie Eilish, whatever. Somebody. Yes. It's like the tickets go on sale at midnight, and then at 1 a.m. it's like, all right, that's it, we're sold out.
Yep.
It's gonna be just like that with movies, where okay, fine, we have like this fire sale of pandemic scripts, but then as soon as 15 of them get greenlit, it's gonna be like, all right, we don't want any more of these.
Yeah. No, I've thought about that too. I mean, this will inevitably lead to things, and some of them will be really ham-fisted, like the couple that gets forced to, stay with each other. There will be some there was Miles Teller did a movie about that a few years ago, so that's what's coming to my mind. And I think it was after, it was like a winter storm or something had hit New York. This was, I can't remember what it was. Do you remember that? Anyway, it was a pretty bad storm, whatever it was. And then following that, there was this movie that Miles Teller did where he was stuck, he had a one night stand with some girl, and they were stuck indoors together because of snow or whatever. And they had to survive for a week or two or whatever it was. Anyway, that'll inevitably happen for sure.
I'm sure. It's definitely, I can't help. I read the list and I was just tickled by it.
I think the earliest we'll see one is when there's some sort of all clear and Hollywood goes back to work and the machines start running again. Probably 9 months from then we'll have the first studio one, but there will probably be a Blumhouse in 6 months.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was looking for something to watch a couple weekends ago, and we were thumbing through Disney Plus. Have you ever seen Miracle?
The hockey movie.
Yeah.
Maybe. It's been a long time if I have. I think I did.
That movie.
I think I rented it from Blockbuster.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Want to hear an amazing story? Back in 1960, Coach Brooks was on the Olympic hockey team. But a week before the games, his coach cuts him and sends him home. And that team went on to win the gold medal without him.
Herb Brooks had given up his dream of Olympic glory until 20 ordinary kids.
Why'd you want to play hockey?
Isn't it obvious? For the girls?
Gave him a second chance.
The Soviets win. My goal is to beat them at their own game.
Beat the best team.
Yeah, so we watched Miracle, and I had never seen it before, and I had only been, it pops up on every best sports movies list. It's obviously based on the Miracle on Ice, and I think it was 1980 was the Olympic year. Of course, I don't have the synopsis up. I don't even have really any. Let's see. Okay, 2004, directed by Gavin O'Connor.
Okay.
College coach Herb Brooks is hired to helm the 1980 U.S. Men's Olympics hockey team. It's the generic sports plot. Like the coach comes in and just gives like a no nonsense attitude, and he gets this ragtag group of players together and makes them, settle their differences and cooperate and succeed.
Okay.
So in a way, it's in the same vein of movies as like Remember the Titans and sports movie. It's a sports movie.
Yeah.
And it's a solid sports movie. I think I gave it 3.5 stars maybe.
Okay.
And so if you've never seen it and you're looking for good sports movies, this is on Disney Plus, and and so again, it's word of mouth had carried it all the way to my living room, and it was good. It was long. It's like 2 hours 15 minutes, which is surprisingly long for just a regular film, not like a big fantasy epic,
Yeah.
In 2004, 2 hour 15-minute films were like Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire and Return of the King.
Right. You'd think this Disney produced sports movie would be like, an hour 45.
Right. So anyway, it's solid. I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, it's just a solid movie. So I'm just sort of giving that like a little implicit, tiny recommendation there.
Okay.
But at the same time, like you watch it and you want to see Remember the Titans instead. Which is, I didn't plan on saying anything about this, but like, it's such a good movie.
It's great.
Remember the Titans is so good, but that was like 2000, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Something like that. Yeah.
It's weird to look at pictures of it and look at like how young Denzel Washington looks, where you didn't feel like he looked young or old. You just like that's just
Denzel.
That was like perfectly aged Denzel Washington was 20 years ago. Yeah. And which was like right after Training Day, and then he went right around and played this high school coach. And God, it's such a good movie.
Yeah. I love that movie.
That was our first exposure to like Hayden Panettiere. Remember that? Ethan Suplee, who is now like jacked and he's no longer
I saw that,
morbidly obese. Yeah, have you seen that guy?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Lots of people. So what's his name? I can't remember that guy's name, but he grew a beard and he was on Sons of Anarchy. Anyway, I'm getting away from the point. Sports movies are great and they're nice and safe and predictable, and the structure is very, very tried and true. I feel like we don't see that much of them these days. Have you seen an honest to God sports movie in a while?
It's been a long time. It's another type of movie that's kind of gone by the wayside, because typically they're pretty easy to make, like cheap and whatever. But, studios aren't really interested in that anymore. They want something that they can spend a lot of money on and make a lot of money on. And something like Coach Carter or Miracle or whatever, they're not gonna pull an audience like that, even with A-list talent. They're just not gonna do that good. I mean, they'll do fine, but like the only thing that really comes to mind are the Creed movies. Yeah. But they're IP based. It's a franchise. Yep. So that's not exactly what we're talking about.
The right next to it in the section on Disney Plus was Rookie of the Year, which we talked about like a couple of weeks ago, I think. Yep. And I almost made my family watch that. Yeah. And The Rookie with Dennis Quaid, which is also a extremely solid sports movie.
I haven't seen that in a long time, but I loved it when it first came out.
Yeah, I remember thinking like this could be rose-colored glasses, but I remember I was looking at that and we almost went to The Rookie. It was Rookie, and then I think I steered them towards Miracle. I was trying to read The Room, and I don't know if I read The Room or if I don't know.
Sure.
But yeah. Anyway, so that's Miracle. I just wanted to mention that. That's all I watched over the weekend. I checked out a couple of the Disney nature documentaries. I watched Dolphin Reef.
Okay.
My son is into these nature things, so I watched Dolphin Reef. I watched like African Cats. I watched the Bears one. I watched this penguin one. I watched the making of the penguin one.
Okay.
Which is insane when you watch those guys carrying all that camera equipment.
I know, dude. That's always the most interesting part.
Parking them next to an elephant seal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. they're talking about how, like, you know, when you're underwater, you only have so much time to get the shot because your hands get so cold you can't operate the focus knob.
Yep. It's insane.
It's crazy.
Well, that's like Free Solo. Like, they had to find filmmakers who were comfortable and able to make that climb.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's tough, dude.
It's
like,
also on Disney Plus.
It is. You don't think about that, but I can't help but think about that now. Like, whenever I see anything that's like Nat Geo or whatever, or the Disney stuff, it's always like, how did they get this footage? Because there's some really great cinematography in these, or Planet Earth, or any of those kind of things. And it's just like the conditions that these filmmakers are in. It's intense.
It's one of the rare times I will go into my settings and turn on the motion smoothing because, you know, and it doesn't make, when it's over streaming, it's debatable what the effect is because it'll just skip, you know, you with buffering, it'll do that. But, and I know, you know, I've gone on and on about motion smoothing and everything, but I've always said that the only piece of art that actually benefits from that on a TV is live sports and documentaries, because they're not meant to suspend your disbelief. They're meant to show you reality. And even though, and so motion smoothing, for better or worse, is effectively reality-based motion refreshing.
Sure.
So, I think for that reason, I was just like, I'm just curious what this will look like if I haven't watched a documentary I haven't thought about motion smoothing, doesn't come to mind when I wake up in the morning.
Exactly.
Anyway, I tried it like that and it wasn't terrible. But we were watching Atypical later and I was just like, oh, hold on. I was watching, I was like, something's wrong. And then I had to quickly go change it. And it's always a reminder. It's not the answer.
No, it's not.
Anyway, yeah. What did you watch anything fun this weekend?
I did. So I watched a film from 1954. So this is a good old retro review for Sabrina, which I had never seen.
There's no doubt about it. They're having a ball, and you're all invited. Humphrey Bogart and William Holden as the two wealthiest brothers in America, and captivating Audrey Hepburn as Sabrina, the chauffeur's daughter, who ran away to Paris to learn about life and came back home to live it in a great big way.
It's Sabrina. Isn't it amazing? Would you have recognized her? How do you like those legs now?
Have you seen Sabrina?
No.
Okay, so Sabrina is written and directed by Billy Wilder, who I love. Billy Wilder, of course, wrote Sunset Boulevard, which is one of my favorite movies. And he also did The Apartment, which is phenomenal. He did Some Like It Hot. He did Double Indemnity. Just a whole bunch of really good movies. He wrote, I don't think he directed, but he wrote Witness for the Prosecution, which is great. Yeah, just super solid filmmaker. And so it's written and directed by Billy Wilder, starring William Holden, Audrey Hepburn, and Humphrey Bogart. And so that's sort of like the main trio of the film. And so the film, if you're unfamiliar, was remade in the 90s, starring Harrison Ford. I have not seen that either. But I decided, like, I'm just going to go all the way back and watch this one. And I was really, really digging this movie. I mean, look, I'm a big Billy Wilder fan. So really anything that he does just has a certain level of artistry that, just sort of, it's ahead of its time. It's like, it's not only written better than most things of its time, but it's shot better. Like, there are some really good, sophisticated shots here. Like, the cinematography is just great, and the lighting is like atmospheric and beautiful. It's a black and white movie, so it's already got that going for it anyway. And anyway, it's just a great film to watch. The story is also great. So the story is about Sabrina, played by Audrey Hepburn. She is the daughter of a chauffeur for a very wealthy, influential family. And so she has grown up living in the estate. And so she has developed this little crush on one of the boys that one of the sons of the wealthy family, played by William Holden. And so she has a crush on him, but he's kind of like a playboy and is like, gallivanting around with all sorts of women and never gives her the time of day. But she's got this huge crush on him. And so partially to get over him and partially just to, expand her horizons, her father sends her to Paris to learn how to cook. And so she, attends this very fancy school in Paris, learns how to cook, and over the course of a couple of years becomes a very glamorous woman. And so she comes back to the States and goes home to visit her father. And wouldn't you know it, both of the boys, but specifically William Holden, now finds her attractive. And so he's, trying to win her over, but he's engaged, but he's trying to win her over because he's a jerk. And she's just head over heels with him. But then his older brother, Humphrey Bogart, is also sort of kind of maybe falling for her. And so so now essentially the ball's in her court, right? Whereas before she couldn't get either of their attention. Now she has both of their attentions. And so she has to make some choices. And so it's a really great movie. Of course, it's a little bit of its time. There are some things that I think nowadays are a little sketchy, particularly the relationship between Humphrey Bogart and Audrey Hepburn. There's like a 30-year age difference there. And so I may be exaggerating, but
that sounds pretty steep.
a significant age difference. In fact, while I'm talking, I'm going to look this up. But nevertheless, there's a significant age difference there. And so they I
wouldn't have questioned it.
Okay. So anyway, they they mention it in the film, like yeah, that was probably more commonplace back then. It didn't maybe read as creepy back then.
Fly today.
Yeah, but it's a little creepy now.
Yeah.
And but they do at least mention it, like he and she both mention it at various points, like, yeah, he's so much older than me, or she's so much younger than me, and that sort of thing. So I mean, it's definitely mentioned. They are actually exactly 30 years apart.
Ooh.
He was born in 1899.
Oh my God.
And she was born in 1929.
Oh my God.
Right. And so 1899, good Lord.
I can't believe you threw that out there like, they're 30 years apart. Oh,
30
that's probably
years
not
apart.
true. No, it's exactly true.
It's exactly right.
Holy crap.
I know, dude. And so, it's but look, it's a really great movie, and it is, as far as I know, it's not streaming anywhere. I just happened to have the Blu-ray. I found it really cheap, I don't know, years ago, and bought it and never watched it. And so we just put it in, and it was great. But I do highly recommend it. It's one of those old, like, twisty-turny romantic comedy kind of things. This is, probably one of the staples that kind of helped shape what a romantic comedy was, especially a romantic comedy that features a triangle of characters. This is sort of probably the gold standard, and this is super influential. You can see the tropes. You can see how this unfolded just over time and became something bigger than itself. I'd be interested in watching the one from the 90s with Harrison Ford. I think that would be an interesting comparison to make, what differences there would be and how the genre, the romantic comedy genre, had changed over time.
You have to cast Anna Paquin in the Audrey Hepburn role for that the age difference to work out.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to see who plays Sabrina in that one.
Do you find that part of the charm of watching a classic film like this, or an older movie that sort of invented or pioneered the tropes of the genre? Because to me, I'm a little more, I don't know about cynical, but I would say impatient. And I think that sometimes I would watch a movie like this, and I would be like, I would be so not bored, but since I know what to expect, it's the John Carter, curse. It's like, oh, I've seen this. It's like, but I am this.
Right.
Do you find that part of the charm of it is knowing that going in and appreciating like, oh my God, this is 1954. And this is when this all sort of began. Like, do you find it fun to sort of time travel like that and go, I can't believe they were doing this in 1954?
Yeah, no, I really do. I think there's a lot of really, there's a lot that you can gain from going back in time and stepping back and saying, where did this begin? And what was it in its purest form? Because it's been diluted and it's been mutated over time by writers who, just wanted to put their own stamp on it, right? So you have this same central dynamic happening probably in, everything from Tyler Perry movies to, the goofy, New Year's Eve type movies or whatever. It's interesting to watch it in its purest form. And here to me is why, because in its purest form, it is inherently artistic. Over time, it's a copycat. You're watching, essentially, you put a document on a flatbed copier. Eventually, over time, those copies become less. They just become less important. And so going back to that original, you have this true artistry. Like this is Billy Wilder saying, this is the story I want to tell, right? Rather than somebody in the 90s and the 2000s currently saying, this is how these stories go. Right. And that's the difference. And so watching it in its purest form, I think is inherently artistic. And like I said, Billy Wilder is just such a great filmmaker that it has a vision and it has like a style and it's just great to be able to step back and do that. Now, there are two types of people, right? There are the people that have a hard time stepping back in time and, regardless of I've seen this before or whatever, there are people that have a harder time stepping back in time and watching an older movie because pace is different, sensibilities are different, all this stuff is different. And then there are the people that I feel like it's not that, and I would put myself in this category. It's not that we, have some ability that other people don't have. It's just that there's an enjoyment of watching, just watching kind of where it began, and it becomes educational. In a weird way. So now I'm watching this movie not just to get entertained, but also to learn. And yeah, I really do enjoy stepping back and watching old movies. Now, there are some hard movies to watch. This isn't one of them. I think this is incredibly accessible. So I think if you're one of those people that has a harder time, I think this is a really good starting point. In fact, I think Billy Wilder is a great starting point anyway, because his films are genuinely thrilling. His films are genuinely funny. His films are genuinely entertaining, regardless of your tolerance for, a different pace, a different tone, a different style. And because maybe, again, it's that same thing, maybe because what he's doing in all of these genres is setting the standard, right? Like what a thriller is now is due in no small part to Sunset Boulevard. And it's the same with The Apartment as another romantic comedy staple, or freaking Witness for the Prosecution as a murder mystery. These things carry over. And so going back, I think Billy Wilder, I would highly recommend. And I think too, this film I would highly recommend. On our scale of 6 stars, I'm going to say it's like 4.5, 5 stars. Wow. I really enjoy this. It's like I said, it's accessible, it's rewatchable, it is funny. It has great twists and turns that kind of are unpredictable. One of the things that I love about this is there are things that characters do in any Billy Wilder script, but especially this one, that they don't bother to explain, right? Like a lot of old movies are like, say, chap, why are you doing that thing over there? And then somebody comes in and goes, well, you see, my plan is, and they explain everything. Billy Wilder doesn't do that. So instead you just have a character doing a thing and behaving in a way, and as that character is revealed, then you start to realize why they're doing what they're doing. And that's a very modern approach. So I would actually super recommend this to anybody, regardless of your own tolerance for, stepping back in time. That's Sabrina. I really enjoyed it. All the films I just mentioned of Billy Wilder's, I recommend. And yeah, I had a really great time with this one. So
I was just thumbing through them on Letterboxd, and we have, at my office at work, we have a few movie posters back in the video production area because they said like, hey, pick some movies. We'll get the whatever you call it, the version of the poster that's like the high contrast, like super simplistic ones.
Yep.
Anyway, and The Apartment is one of the ones that one of the editors chose.
Yep.
Got Billy Wilder. Mine are like Logan, Guardians of the Galaxy,
Sure.
Those sort of things. And then the new guy picked Looper.
Okay.
All right. Your favorite
to each his
movie?
own.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
I thought that would gall you.
Yes, it does.
That's cool. I like a lot of the cast of these movies, and I love Humphrey Bogart, and I remember being really surprised by The African Queen, which is not Billy Wilder, but I always think of it when I think of accessible older films.
Yeah.
I remember watching The African Queen, as like a teenager, when I was 19 and and I was not very open-minded at 19, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
This is pretty
It's
great.
good.
Yeah.
Humphrey Bogart's a good actor to kind of jump into because he had a way. First of all, he's just super charismatic and to me maybe the epitome of the movie star.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't know much about him personally, and that's part of the appeal.
He's so
like
cool.
I've never read.
Mysterious.
Yeah, exactly. He's got that scar on his lip, and you're like, how did you get that scar?
Yeah.
And there's that kind of stuff. But his projects, by and large, tended to be just very accessible. It's stuff that I think they're timeless. So you mentioned African Queen, but you can also look at Casablanca. You can also look at The Big Sleep, or you can look at The Maltese Falcon or Treasure of the Sierra Madre. All of these movies they're just great. And now I will say, like, probably something like maybe The Maltese Falcon was maybe a little slow towards the beginning or whatever. But all that said, like, these are solid stories that I think even if you don't typically like older movies, I think you'll be invested in the story, if only because Humphrey Bogart's just charismatic and fun to watch. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoy him, and I really enjoy Sabrina. This, strangely enough, believe it or not, I co-host a movie podcast, but this is the first time I've ever seen Audrey Hepburn in anything.
Really?
Yeah, I've never seen Breakfast at Tiffany's.
I've never seen Breakfast at Tiffany's.
I just never have. I think she's in Roman Holiday. I haven't seen that.
We need to watch Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yeah, we should. I think so. My wife has it. It's on DVD. I've got it down in the movie room. I just have not watched it.
My wife does not.
Okay. But yeah, sure. So I think, what was the other big one that she did?
Oh yeah, I'm blanking on it.
My Fair Lady.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I've not seen that. So yeah, I've never seen Audrey Hepburn in anything. So I really enjoyed her performance in this. I can absolutely see the appeal and why she was, maybe still is, the epitome of the female movie star.
Yeah.
Right. Like she's glamorous and all of that good stuff. And the one thing I'll say about this is a little funny. Like nowadays, I feel like there would be a much bigger push to have her be like frumpy and unattractive at the beginning and then become glamorous. Like, they didn't care. The only thing that they did in this movie was cut her hair. And like, she went from having a ponytail to having like a short, like pixie cut or whatever, and whatever you call it. I don't know. Right. And like, that's all they did. So I do feel like that's one like filmmaking difference that would have occurred. And then I think probably the age difference would be different. But look, anyway, the point is, it's a great movie. You'll enjoy it. There's enough to grab hold of and really enjoy these characters, like all of them, right? Like Audrey Hepburn's great, William Holden's great, Humphrey Bogart's great, and they anchor the film, and then all of the little side characters that are kind of like goofy little like side roles, like that's a rom-com, like tried and true, like these goofy little sidekick characters who are like rooting for the people to get together or whatever. Like all of that like comes from here, I would assume. I mean, I'm not a rom-com expert, but I would assume like all of that comes from here. And I just enjoyed it. And I think if you like rom-coms, and even if you don't, I think you'll find something in this story. So I enjoyed it.
I wanted to ask you real quick. I mean, I know
Sure.
This will take 5 minutes.
But
I know we've already sort of been like on the text thread about it lately, but so Bob Iger stepped down as CEO of Disney, and then started the transition for Bob Chapek, and then we were all, as outsiders, disappointed in this because the tell all of Bob Chapek is that he's really cheap, and that's kind of the opposite of how Disney became so diverse and successful financially in the last 15 years under Iger, is that he was willing to spend money to make money.
Yeah.
And he was practical, and it seems like all that was going to go away with Chapek. And, but of course, Bob Iger was supposed to retire in 2021 or it was supposed to be, I think it was supposed to be 2019. And then he extended his contract 2 years for the Fox deal, and he was going to hand it off in 2021. And then he was like, hey, I'm going to do it at the end of 2020, and I'm going to be the whatever creative consultant, creative officer until my contract is out. Bob's going to take over as CEO. And then I think someone basically, the theory on that was he wanted to sort of exit his role while he was on top. He had all these achievements, and then and then I think since it was late last year, somebody said he was reading the tea leaves and he heard the reports coming out of China and knew the coronavirus was coming.
I heard that.
But whether that's true or not, he has, I think it was today that there was the news that he is essentially taking it back.
Yep.
I don't know the actual official link. I haven't even read the story. I just saw the headline and my wife told me about it, and we started texting about it. And all I know is that he's basically back as CEO, and Chapek is not, and presumably will not be. What's the deal with all this? I don't know the official title of this. I don't know the official goings on.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with it. I mean, I read the article, but it's a little vague.
Okay.
It seems like the way that they're spinning it anyway is that due to the COVID pandemic, he's going to remain where he is. Now, there was no mention in the article that I read, and there's no mention of Chapek being, permanently ousted. Maybe he is, I don't know. And there's no mention of like, well, we just don't have any faith in him or anything like that. It was just simply like, hey, here's what's happening. I'm going to stay right where I am. Don't worry. I'm going to get us through this thing. And to me, I mean, that's great. But it does leave some room for, like, at least again, from the article that I had read, it left room for us to kind of imagine, like, I don't know, maybe he doesn't leave, or maybe he does. And then, as soon as we get the all clear and, whatever, Disney World's back open, then he's out again. I have no idea. So yeah, I really don't know what to make of it. I mean, I guess it's a good thing because I think Iger's better than Chapek. So yeah, I don't know.
It says, this is on Fox Business. Disney executive Bob Iger is reasserting control over the Walt Disney Company as the coronavirus pandemic is shaken up. It just says reasserting control, but it's linking to the New York Times story. And I want to know, I mean, reasserting control is kind of vague. That could just mean I'm gonna sort of have my hand on the wheel a little bit for Bob.
Right.
But see, let's see. God, I love the New York Times, but the problem with the New York Times is they did all this preamble. Just like, can you just?
Right.
Sorry. So now I have to like skip to the early December and January, seemingly abrupt. Should have pulled this up while you were talking. Now Mr. Iger has effectively returned to running the company after a few weeks of letting Mr. Chapek take charge. Mr. Iger smoothly reasserted control. Okay, same exact word.
Right.
Blue Jeans video call. By Blue Jeans video call, Disney does not use Zoom for its meetings for security reasons. Okay. I guess because of all those Zoom bombings, those happen.
Yeah.
Okay. The new nominal chief executive is referred to almost kindergarten style as Bob C, while Mr. Iger is still just Bob.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So pretty much, he's basically back in charge because everyone feels comfortable with his leadership, and it's an unprecedented time financially for Disney. Yep. And while I said they're a diverse company financially, so much of their product is based on entertainment during good times when people can go to theme parks and see movies and, travel and go on cruises and, go to concert, all that stuff, watch live sports, have live sports, broadcast live sports. Disney owns ESPN in case anybody didn't know that, but, it's so weird because in a way it's like it's blown out of proportion because it's like, all right, it's not that big a deal. It's just like, it's just timing. If Chapek had been CEO for 2 years, this wouldn't be occurring. They wouldn't be pulling Bob Iger out of retirement to run Disney, because that would be kind of scandalous. But it is at the same time, it is sort of like if he could handle it, why didn't he just handle it? So there's no way that Bob Chapek looks good during this. But again, as someone who wasn't really a fan of him being appointed, I sadly am fine with this because, like you said, I like Bob Iger. I trust Bob Iger. I respect him a lot. I read his book. He's phenomenal. And all I know about Bob Chapek is he's a cheap bastard. And, that's maybe that will help a little bit during this because you're going to have to find a way to cut some costs. Yeah. But it's not what you want to happen in your first year as CEO is a pandemic that wipes out whatever it is, how much you're
a lot.
Your profits. So
yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. We'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Bob Iger is never going to be able to retire. That man has tried to step down for like 4 years, and something keeps happening that pulls him in and requires his attention. Yeah. You should check out his book. I don't know if you like. Oh my God, this is gonna sound. Did you hear that?
I did.
What the hell that was? Woo! That woke me up. Anyway, his for anyone who's a big reader, I'm just gonna throw my phone over there. I don't know if you're a big reader, check out his book. It's really great.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, that's gonna do it, Dustin.
Yeah.
Cool.
If you have a quick second, I do have one other story I wanted to read to you. It's really short.
Okay, I have a few.
Okay. All right. So James Gunn, right? Yeah. He made the first 2 Scooby-Doo movies, the live action Scooby-Doo movies.
He wrote them.
Correct. Yes.
Some other clown directed them.
Correct. On Twitter, he was recently asked, were there ideas for Scooby-Doo 3?
I saw this.
He said yes.
Yeah.
This was the idea. The Mystery Inc. gang are hired by a town in Scotland who complain they're being plagued by monsters. But we discover throughout the film the monsters are actually the victims, and Scooby and Shaggy have to come to terms with their own prejudices and narrow belief systems. That is so James Gunn to me, and I loved every second of it. And I was like, look, I'm not a huge fan of those movies for a lot of reasons.
Right.
But what I do love about them is how meta they were and how like weirdly aggressive they were towards the tropes that IP had set up.
Right.
And so like
I've
I remember
seen them both recently, as you can imagine.
Okay.
Yes.
So I remember the first one like made me so mad when I was a kid and I saw it in theaters, and I was like, they made Scrappy do the villain, and like I was so mad about it. And like as I've aged and I look back on it, I think I've probably only seen it the once, but I'm like, look, that's actually a pretty smart move,
right?
And to make this character that sort of represents the downward trajectory of the franchise, the villain, that's super meta and makes sense. And then the second one, I don't really remember the second one, but I do know that like looking back on them in my memory, I can see James Gunn's fingerprints on them, and that's a good thing.
There's a whole lot
so
of
I just wanted to bring that up because I thought it was hilarious.
There's a whole lot of scenes here and there with characters like Velma, where you just forget, like, you don't forget, but like, again, I don't think I'd seen the movies before. I'd seen them recently, but you're watching them and you just go, and especially now, like as an adult, I'm just like, I can appreciate and I can see his fingerprints on those scenes. Like, oh, this is such a strange scene, but this dialogue is so smart. It's so self-aware, and it's so, I don't know, it's so good. And it's so weird to see like a skillful hand applied to an otherwise kind of bland idea, but you watch and you go, this script is good,
right? Exactly.
Especially like when you have like the tone, like those movies are so silly and so like they're not realistic at all. The color palette is so poppy, and it's so weird. Like everywhere they go, you feel like you're watching like a musical.
Yeah, right.
Anyways, that's interesting. I would still, in 4 years, whenever all Suicide Squad and Guardians 3 is out, like I wouldn't be opposed to him writing and directing that, although that cast is not coming back, but it'd be fun if they did.
It would be fun.
They're all around. You'd have to really kind of change a few elements, but the only person I can't see coming back is CG Scooby.
Yeah, right. No, I think that ship is long since sailed. They've got that CG, the fully CG animated one coming out.
Yeah,
like that's where the eggs are going, is right there. Because as far as I haven't heard this. I don't know. I haven't followed it at all. But it seems like that movie is trying to start its own cinematic universe.
I'm sure it is.
It's like its own Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe.
Oh well.
So anyway, interesting.
All right, Dustin, this was good.
Yeah, man.
Sir.
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk again soon.
Sounds good.
Okay. Goodbye, sir. I don't know what I keep calling you sir. I'm so respectful today.
I'll take it.
By the way, since we're at the end of the show, I'll just mention real quick, if anyone's lasted this long, if you're listening, the show's on YouTube, youtube.com/HooperCast. And if you're watching, it's on up to an actual podcast. It's not just YouTube. It's the iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. And that's it.
Yeah.
Yay. That was good. Swept that up.
There you go.
Okay. Goodbye.
Goodbye.